Hey, Wide Awake family. If you see this, it's your sign to smash that like button. Yes, you listening right now. That way YouTube shows you more amazing stories like this one. We love you all. Now enjoy the stories. I swear this is the only Tinder story I've ever had where the fear didn't build slowly. It didn't creep up on me or unfold over the course of a date. It hit instantly right at the start, before I even understood what was happening. One minute I was chilling at home, half asleep on my sofa, and the next minute someone was telling me I was in danger like it was a casual comment. Her name was Sarah. I matched her on a random weekday afternoon. I wasn't even really trying to look for anyone. It was one of those boredom swipes you do without thinking. Her profile was simple. 3 selfies, 1 mirror pic, 1 picture at a beach. Pretty but not suspiciously pretty. In her bio, she had some joke about hating small talk and preferring straight to the point. She wasn't lying. She messaged instantly after we matched, asking if I was free tonight. Not tomorrow. Not this weekend. Tonight. She didn't flirt. Didn't send emojis. Didn't even try to talk about interests. She asked my address within the first 10 minutes. I obviously didn't give it. But she kept insisting she needed to meet me in person. She said it was important. She said she couldn't explain over text. Any normal person would block her, but something about her messages didn't feel like a scam or a come-over invite. It felt like urgency, real urgency, like she was panicking through the screen. The more I hesitated, the more she kept sending messages telling me I needed to trust her. I should have ignored her. But curiosity is stupid and powerful sometimes. I finally agreed to meet her outside a cafe near my place, somewhere public, somewhere safe. She said she'd be there in 20 minutes. I left my flat and walked down. The sky was dark already, the streetlights making everything look slightly orange. When I got to the cafe, she was already standing outside, hood up, arms crossed like she'd been waiting for ages. When she saw me, she walked fast toward me, not running, but close enough that I stepped back automatically. She looked stressed, not drugged, not drunk, just stressed. And the first thing she said, not hello, not nice to meet you, was, "You're in danger." I almost laughed because it sounded insane, but her face was dead serious. Before I could say anything, before I could even tell her she needed to slow down and explain, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She asked if I'd been sleeping normally. That made me nervous because I hadn't mentioned anything like that. I hadn't talked about my routine. I hadn't talked about my flat. I hadn't even told her which floor I lived on. I asked what she meant, but she didn't answer. She just unlocked her phone and shoved the screen in my face. And that's when everything inside me went cold. They were photos of me. Sleeping. Not pictures I'd ever taken. Not screenshots from Snapchat. Actual photographs. Me in my bed, curled up on my side, covers half off, room dark except for the faint orange glow of the streetlight outside. The angle wasn't from my door. It wasn't from my bedside either. It was from the corner of my room, where no one should have been, where nothing should be standing. All taken last night. Different angles, different distances. Some with the camera close enough that I could see the reflection of my own alarm clock in my unfocused eyes. One shot made my chest tighten the most. It was taken from right above me, looking down at my face. My mouth went dry. My brain started running through 100 explanations at once, but none of them made sense. I kept thinking maybe someone hacked my phone, but these weren't digital selfies. They weren't screenshots of my camera roll. These were taken inside my room, with someone physically there. I asked her where she got them, but my voice barely came out. She said she woke up to them on her phone this morning. Not sent by a number. Not transferred. Not screenshot from anywhere. Just sitting in her camera roll. 22 photos. All of me. She didn't know my name yesterday. She didn't know my address. She had no possible way of knowing what my room looked like. But she had the photos anyway. She said she almost blocked me when she saw them, but something told her she had to warn me instead. She said this had happened to her once before. Someone she matched randomly, photos of their house or bedroom appearing on her phone out of nowhere. She never found the source. She never found the person in the photos again. This time she didn't want to wait for the person in the pictures, me, to disappear. The whole time she explained this, my head kept ringing with one horrible realization. If someone had been watching me sleep, where were they now? I checked behind me, checked the windows of the cafe, checked the street. Everything looked normal. People walking past, cars driving by. Nothing strange. But the photos didn't lie. Someone had been in my room. Close enough to touch me. Close enough to stand over me. I told her we needed to go to the police. She didn't argue. We walked fast down the street, practically power walking toward the station. I kept checking behind me with every step, expecting to see someone following, someone staring, someone recognizing me. When we got near the police station, I told her to show me the photos again so I could screenshot them onto my phone. I didn't want her to rely on her phone alone. She opened her gallery. Every photo was gone. Not deleted. Gone. Like they'd never been there at all. She panicked, swiping back and forth through her camera roll, mumbling that they were there minutes ago. I believed her because I'd seen them myself. That's when her phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown sender. No name. No number. No icon. Just a message preview. Stop showing him. She froze. I felt my stomach twist so hard it hurt. Then another message came through. You're next. She dropped her phone. Not on purpose. Her hand literally let go of it like her body couldn't hold onto it anymore. I picked it up and looked at the lock screen. The wallpaper had changed. It wasn't the default pattern she had earlier. It was a photo, taken from behind us. At that moment. Of both of us standing outside the police station. Someone was watching us right then. I told her we needed to go inside immediately. She nodded, but she was shaking so hard I had to drag her gently by the arm. We stepped into the station, and for the first time all night, I felt a tiny bit safer. We gave statements, showed what little evidence we had. The police said they'd look into it, which wasn't comforting at all. When I got home that night, I locked every window, checked the whole flat twice, and slept with the lights on. In the morning, I woke up to one notification on my phone. A photo. Of me. Sleeping. From the same corner of my room as before. Taken last night. I swear this is the one date where everything felt slightly off from the start, but not in a loud, obvious way. More like a gut thing I kept ignoring because nothing technically bad happened until it all hit at once. I've had awkward dates, boring dates, clingy dates, but this one felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain, even before I understood why. His name was Cade. His pictures were decent. Not suspicious, not filtered beyond recognition. He had that clean-cut look, jawline, nice clothes, too perfect lighting in every photo. He messaged me first, and the conversation was smooth but very rehearsed, like he had a script he used on every match. I noticed it, but I didn't care that much. People recycle lines all the time. We decided to meet at this small dessert place. When he arrived, he looked the same as his photos, but something about him felt focused. He kept watching the door every time someone walked in. He checked his phone constantly, tapping the screen even when no notifications came up. He wasn't fully present, like he was waiting for something else to happen. But he wasn't creepy. Not yet. Halfway through our waffles, he said he had a surprise for me. I laughed and asked what it was, expecting something harmless, like a scenic walk or some secret viewpoint people go to take pictures for an Instagram. He just smiled and said I'd love it. He offered to drive. I hesitated for a second, but he had been normal enough so far, and the place he mentioned was only 5 minutes away. We drove toward the city center, then into one of those older shopping blocks where the stores are downstairs and the parking is on the roof. He parked, locked the car, and started walking toward a stairwell door. I joked again, asking if he was taking me to some hidden skyline view. He said something like, "You'll understand when you see it." His tone was too calm. We went up one more flight of stairs until he pushed open the rooftop door. Cold air hit instantly. The whole rooftop was empty. No cars, no people, nothing except the wind and 2 flickering lights along the edge. And then I saw it. In the far corner of the rooftop, under one of the dead lights, there was a metal chair, a roll of duct tape beside it, a coil of rope on the ground, all arranged neatly, like someone set it up with intention. I froze mid-step. Everything in my body went tight. My brain started going through excuses. Maybe maintenance left it. Maybe someone forgot to clean up. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But then he said it. This wasn't for you originally. My heart dropped so fast I felt dizzy. He stepped past me, hands in his pockets like we were just casually sightseeing. Then he turned around slowly and finished the sentence. But since you're here. No smile. No joke. Just that quiet voice, like he'd been waiting for the moment I noticed. I took one step back. He took one step forward. The space between us felt like it got heavier. The wind felt colder. Every detail about his behavior the entire night clicked in my head all at once. His distractedness, the checking the door, the way he kept looking at the time, how his messages felt scripted. He wasn't waiting for me. He was waiting for someone else. Someone he had planned this setup for. The chair, the tape, the rope. My voice came out almost silent when I asked who it was for. He didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly, like he was studying how scared I looked. Then he glanced past me to the rooftop entrance, slow, controlled, as if checking whether anyone else had followed us. That's when I realized something worse than the setup itself. He hadn't planned this date at all. He had just taken the first girl available to replace whoever didn't show. My legs finally unfroze. I stepped back again, trying to keep my breathing steady. He didn't rush me. He didn't grab me. He didn't do anything dramatic. He just kept walking forward with this strange calmness, like he knew exactly how fast I'd move and exactly when he'd catch up. I told him I needed fresh air. He nodded like he understood. I took another step back. Then I ran. Not gracefully, not strategically. I full-on sprinted toward the stairwell door behind me. My hand slammed the bar, and I flew down the steps so fast I nearly tripped. I heard footsteps behind me. Not fast, but steady, like he wasn't chasing me. Like he was just following to see how far I'd get. I didn't stop until I hit the ground floor and burst out the exit into the street. I didn't look back. I didn't slow down. I ran across the road and into the nearest shop where there were people. Only then did I turn around. He wasn't there. He didn't run after me. No yelling, no threats, nothing. He just disappeared into the stairwell. I called myself a taxi and went straight home. That night, my Tinder got a notification. Not a message. Just that his profile had updated. His bio now said, "Plans changed tonight. Thanks for helping." I blocked him immediately. But the next morning, when I checked again, he'd unmatched me, not blocked. Just removed the connection. Like he was done with me. Like he'd moved on to the next person. And the rooftop. I went back 2 days later with a friend, just to prove to myself it wasn't my imagination. The chair was still there, but the rope and tape were gone. I still don't understand how a date that felt so normal at the start turned into something that messed with my head for weeks after. Nothing about him or his place seemed dangerous. No creepy vibes, no weird comments, nothing. If anything, the start of the night was boring in a safe, predictable way. And maybe that's why what happened hit so much harder, because it didn't feel like the kind of situation where anything scary was supposed to happen. His name was Miles. He looked like the type of guy who bikes everywhere and drinks too much coffee. Simple pictures, a friendly smile, a dog in one of the shots. He wasn't intense in his messages, just casual, asking about my day, recommending random songs, complaining about uni work. It all felt harmless. We met at this small burger place near the center, the kind where everyone knows everyone in the staff yell your order from the kitchen. The date itself was fine. Miles was quieter than he was online, but not awkward quiet, more polite quiet. He laughed at my jokes, asked normal questions, didn't overshare. Honestly, I kept waiting for a red flag and didn't get one. After we ate, it started raining out of nowhere. He offered to drive me home or just hang out at his place for a bit until the rain stopped. It was early and his house was only a 5-minute drive away. And stupidly, I said yes, because I didn't feel unsafe, because nothing had happened yet. He lived in a terraced house on a quiet street. Warm lighting, shoes by the door, a big plant he clearly forgot to water. Everything normal. He told me to make myself comfortable while he grabbed us drinks. I sat on the sofa and noticed he had an Alexa device on the shelf next to the TV. It lit up randomly. Not talking, just glowing blue for a second and turning off again. I thought nothing of it. Those things activate from breathing too loud. Miles came back with drinks. We talked. We watched part of a film. Nothing weird, except the Alexa kept lighting up for no reason. No sound, no voice commands, no activity. Just glowing. Like it was listening. I joked about it glitching. He said it had been acting weird for a couple days. No big deal. But then, halfway through the film, the Alexa lit up again. This time it spoke. 2 intruders detected. My whole body went still. I looked at Miles, expecting him to laugh or say it was some stupid routine he programmed. But his face went blank. Not scared blank. Confused blank. He frowned at the device. Alexa continued, 1 unknown female. For a second, I thought maybe it meant me. Maybe it detected motion or something. My heart slowed down a bit. I almost laughed. Until it kept talking. 1 in the attic. Every muscle in my body locked up instantly. Miles froze like someone hit pause on him. His eyes widened just slightly, not enough to look terrified, but enough to show that wasn't a normal error message. He looked at me, then slowly at the ceiling. The house went dead silent. Rain, film, fridge, everything felt muted all at once. I asked him if he had someone living with him. A sibling, a roommate, anything. He shook his head. His voice was low when he said it. No one else is here. The Alexa lit up again. Movement detected in the attic. Miles stood up way too fast, like his instincts kicked in before his brain did. I stayed sitting because my legs felt like they weren't attached to my body anymore. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to breathe loudly. I didn't even want to blink. He walked slowly to the hallway to where the attic hatch was. He didn't go up. He just stared at it. I stayed on the sofa, gripping my drink like it was the only thing keeping my hands from shaking. I didn't want to follow him, but I also didn't want to be alone in the living room. Before either of us could do anything else, Alexa spoke again. Closer now. Her tone flatter. Heat signature approaching the hatch. Miles backed away from the hallway like something was pulling him back. I stood up without meaning to. My heart was pounding so loud I felt it in my teeth. He whispered that the device sometimes bugged out, but even he sounded like he didn't believe what he was saying. Then the attic hatch creaked. Not fully opening. Just one soft, dragging sound. Someone, or something, shifting above it. Miles grabbed my arm fast and whispered that we should leave now. Not stay. Not check. Leave. His voice was shaky in a way that made my stomach drop. He wasn't pretending. He wasn't calm. He was scared. We moved toward the front door as quietly as possible. No footsteps upstairs. No voices. Nothing, which somehow made it worse. I kept glancing at the attic hatch from the corner of my eye, terrified I'd see it open the rest of the way. Just before we reached the door, Alexa lit up again. Motion detected in the hallway. Our hallway. Right behind us. I didn't turn around. I didn't look. Neither did he. We bolted out of the house into the rain, not stopping until we were halfway down the street. He kept looking back like he expected someone to follow. Nothing did. When we finally reached his car, Alexa's voice echoed faintly from inside the house. The male subject has exited the property. The female subject has exited the property. Tracking concluded. Miles locked his car doors immediately, hands shaking. We both sat in silence, breathing hard, rain slamming against the windows. I didn't go back inside. Neither did he. A week later, I blocked him, not because he did anything wrong, but because every time I saw his name pop up, I remembered that voice saying 1 in the attic. And the fact that Alexa wasn't wrong about the unknown female. I was the one she meant. But we still don't know who or what was in the attic. If I'm being honest, this day didn't start scary at all. It started weird, like the kind of weird you laugh about with your mates later. The kind of weird where you think, all right, she's a little dramatic but harmless. I had no clue how fast that vibe would switch, or how close I came to something that still messes with my head when I think about it too long. Her name was Mara. She looked normal in her photos. Dark hair, messy fringe, big eyes, nose ring, all that soft alternative vibe. She messaged first, which already caught my attention because she seemed confident without being annoying. We talked for a couple days, and she suggested we meet for a drink at this bar that wasn't too loud but still busy enough to feel safe. The second she sat down across from me, she smiled and said, "Tonight is the night." I laughed awkwardly because I thought she was joking. Like maybe she meant tonight was the night she finally went out instead of canceling plans or something casual like that. But she didn't explain it. She just took a sip of her drink and acted like she hadn't said anything strange. I brushed it off. We talked about usual stuff, uni stories, annoying teachers, random holiday plans that would never happen. She listened more than she spoke, but she wasn't awkward. She just watched me really closely, like she was studying my expressions or waiting for me to say something specific. Then she said it again. Tonight is the night. Not loud, not excited, soft, calm, like she was reminding herself. I jokingly asked the night for what, but she looked away and said she'd tell me later. Her gaze drifted around the bar like she was waiting for something to happen. Every time someone walked in, her head turned instantly. Sometimes she looked disappointed. Sometimes she looked relieved. I told myself she was just socially anxious or expecting a friend. Nothing creepy about that, right? The date kept going, and honestly, it wasn't awful. She laughed at my jokes, leaned forward when she talked, pushed her hair behind her ear in that way people do when they're into you. But every 20 minutes or so, she'd say it again. Tonight is the night. Sometimes under her breath, sometimes while stirring her drink. Once she said it right after looking me dead in the eyes. By that point, I was unsettled but trying not to show it. I didn't want to think she was dangerous, just a bit strange. Maybe spiritual or dramatic or into manifesting or something. But there was something in her voice when she said it that didn't feel positive. More like someone finishing the countdown. When the date was winding down, I asked if she wanted another drink. She said no, because they'd be here soon. They. Before I could ask who she meant, she straightened up like she'd heard something behind me. Her face shifted. Not scared, not excited. Expecting. Then the bar door opened. 3 men walked in. Not together like friends messing about. Together like a unit. Focused. Moving in sync. All older than us. Maybe mid-30s, wearing dark jackets. Not smiling. Not looking at anyone else. The second they crossed the threshold, Mara exhaled in this relieved, almost happy way. I felt my stomach drop. I didn't turn around fully. I just watched them in the reflection of the bar's glass display. They scanned the room once. Then all 3 of them looked straight at me. Not at her. At me. I froze instantly. Something in their faces made everything click too quickly for my brain to stay calm. They didn't look confused or curious. They looked certain, like they already knew who I was. The tallest one stepped forward and said, loud enough for everyone around us to hear, "He looks perfect." My entire chest tightened. Mara's expression softened like she'd been waiting for that exact line, like it confirmed something for her, like the whole date had been about this moment. I stood up so fast my stool scraped the floor. My heartbeat nearly drowned out the music. I didn't wait for them to come closer. I didn't ask questions. I didn't even pretend to be chill about it. I walked out. Not fast. Not slow. Just straight through the bar, past 2 tables, and out onto the street without looking back. Once I was outside, I turned the corner so quickly I almost slipped. I kept walking until I reached a main road with bright lights and people everywhere. Only then did I look behind me. None of them followed. None of them were at the door. But I didn't feel relieved. I felt watched. When I finally got home, I blocked her instantly. But before the block went through, one message popped up from her. Just one. Tonight wasn't the night. But it will be soon. I blocked her. Deleted the chat. Deleted the app. But 2 days later, I opened Tinder again just to check something. I don't even know why. Maybe paranoia. Maybe curiosity. Her profile was gone. But a new one showed up under recommended. 3 men. No bio. Just a caption under the photo. Still looking for the perfect one. I always thought the scariest Tinder stories were the ones people exaggerated on Twitter for likes, not the ones that happen quietly, without warning, in a house that looks completely normal from the outside. Nothing about this date felt dangerous at first. Annoying in some moments, awkward in others, but not threatening. Definitely not the type of night I thought I'd remember forever. His name was Declan. His profile was boring, but sometimes boring feels safe. 3 photos of him in hoodies, one hiking picture, one of him holding a coffee. No cringe quotes, no weird captions. He messaged me first with something normal. We talked for a couple days, and he asked if I wanted to hang out. He said he lived really close to a park I liked, so the plan was simple. Meet there, walk around a bit, maybe get food. The walk was fine. He wasn't weird or overly intense. If anything, he was quiet. Too quiet, like he thought too long before answering anything. I assumed he was shy. He didn't ask creepy questions or try to get touchy. He just walked beside me at the same pace and made small talk. After about an hour, he suggested we go back to his place because he left his portable charger at home and his phone was dying. I didn't want to seem rude, so I agreed, but I told myself I wouldn't stay long. His house looked normal. A small terrace place with a tidy front garden and a porch light that flickered slightly but not enough to be weird. Inside, everything looked neat. Too neat. No clutter. No photos on the walls. No personal things except the basics. It felt like a rental that nobody lived in long enough to make their own. He offered me a drink and pointed me toward the bathroom if I needed it while he checked his phone battery. I didn't think anything of it. I just said thanks and went. The second I stepped into the bathroom, the whole vibe of the house changed. The room itself was clean and plain. White tiles, small sink, normal shower. But the door stopped me cold. The entire inside of the bathroom door, every inch of it, was covered in scratch marks. Hundreds of them. Some deep, some shallow, some long like someone dragged their nails down with force. Some were short and frantic, overlapping each other. The wood around the handle was gouged out like something sharp had chipped away at it. Some scratches were old and faded. Some were fresh, pale and raw, like they were made recently. I stared at it too long. I didn't even breathe for a second. It didn't look like accidental damage. It looked like someone had tried to claw their way out. I stepped back automatically, bumping into the sink. My heart started racing, because suddenly nothing about this house felt normal anymore. Every detail I ignored earlier, a lack of personal items, the spotless floors, the quiet, now felt purposeful, like the house had been reset. Cleaned, scrubbed, used before. I opened the door slowly to leave the bathroom, ready to make up an excuse and go home. Declan was standing right outside. Not close enough to touch me, but close enough that I knew he'd been waiting. His eyes flicked to the bathroom behind me, then back to my face. He asked if I was all right. I forced the most casual laugh I could manage and pointed to the door, asking what happened to it, trying to sound more curious than scared. He didn't even look at the door when he answered. He just stared at me and said, "Don't worry, they weren't mine." My whole chest tightened instantly. I didn't know how to react. They weren't mine. Who is they? What happened in this house? Why did he say it like that? Why was he so calm? Why did he answer before I even finished the question? I nodded like an idiot, pretending I understood. He smiled slightly, not wide, not forced, just this strange tiny smile like he was relieved I didn't push it. I told him I needed to head home early because I had stuff to do. He didn't argue, didn't beg me to stay, didn't look disappointed. He just said okay and walked toward the kitchen, telling me he'd grab his keys. The moment he stepped out of the hallway, I grabbed my shoes and left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't wait. I didn't walk slowly. I walked out the front door and down the street so fast I nearly tripped twice. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't unlock my phone for a minute. When I finally checked Tinder to block him, something made my stomach drop even more. His profile picture was gone. His name changed to user. His bio was empty. And the account said, "Last active. Now." As if he was watching the chat. As if he knew I'd left. As if he was waiting for something. I blocked him anyway. Later that night, I kept picturing those scratch marks. The fresh ones. The old ones. The way they covered the entire door. The way he answered without blinking. They weren't mine. Not I didn't do it. Not it happened before I moved in. They weren't mine. Like the real question wasn't how the scratches got there, but who made them, and where they are now. I don't think anything in my life has ever messed with my head the way this date did, because nothing about it felt supernatural or dramatic when it was happening. It felt normal, awkward, a bit quiet, slightly off at moments, but still normal. And maybe that's why the end hit me so hard, because it didn't feel like the kind of story that should twist into something dark. Her name was Lacey. She had the soft, shy-looking profile that didn't scream for attention. 3 photos. Nothing flashy. Her smile looked real, not forced. She messaged me first with something funny about one of my pictures, and the conversation was so easy I didn't even get that pre-date anxiety. She didn't talk too much, but she wasn't dry either. It was that perfect middle ground where she felt genuine. There was only one weird thing. Anytime the conversation drifted toward family, siblings, parents, where she grew up, she shut it down instantly. She didn't get angry. She just changed the subject fast, like she physically couldn't talk about it. Nobody likes everything about their family, so I didn't push, but it did stick out. We agreed to meet at this little diner near the edge of my town. Nothing fancy. Just warm lighting, old music, and pancakes that taste better than they look. When I walked in and saw her, she gave me the smallest smile, the kind that tells you she's nervous but glad you showed up. She hugged me lightly, cold hands, colder than they should have been, and we sat down. From the start, she seemed off. Not in a dangerous way. More like she was exhausted from something she wasn't telling me. Her eyes kept drifting to the window, and when I'd asked what she was looking at, she shrugged like she didn't even realize she was staring. The whole date she barely talked about herself. Not because she was uninterested. She asked loads of questions about me. But when I tried asking anything about her personal life, she dodged it instantly. I asked what area she lived in, and she answered. But when I asked who she lived with, she just said it was complicated. Every time I asked anything small about her home, she tightened up, like the topic physically hurt her. Still, she wasn't rude or closed off. She laughed at my jokes. She kept fixing her hair when I looked at her, like she wanted to look nice. She played with her straw when she was nervous. All the usual date stuff. So I pushed everything else aside and told myself she was just shy. When we were done eating, she said she didn't want to go home yet. She asked if we could sit in my car for a bit and listen to music. Again, not the safest choice normally, but she didn't give off any threatening energy. So I said sure. We sat in the car park, playing random songs and talking about small things, school memories, weird things we believed when we were younger, the usual filler stuff. She opened up a bit more. She even told me her favorite film and why she loved it. For a moment, she felt completely normal. Then she checked the time on her phone and suddenly said she had to get home. Not in a scared way. In a resigned way. Like she hated going home. But she still asked if I could drop her to her house. I said, yeah, of course. She gave me an address about 10 minutes away. The route was simple, just down a main road then into a quiet residential street. The closer we got, the more tense she became. She stopped making eye contact. She kept twisting her fingers in her lap. She looked like the kid being taken somewhere they didn't want to go. Her road was dim. No street lights except the one flickering at the far end. Her house sat in the middle, a small semi with a wide driveway and an overgrown front garden. No lights on in the windows. It looked empty, but not abandoned. I pulled up to the curb. She didn't move. She just stared at the house. I gently asked if she was okay. She nodded slowly, eyes still fixed on the place. Then she whispered that she didn't want me to walk her to the door. Not because she didn't trust me, but because she didn't want them to see me. I asked who they were. She didn't explain. She just opened the door, thanked me softly, and stepped onto the pavement. She walked toward the house like every step hurt. I watched her reach the door and raise her hand to knock. Not unlock. Knock. She didn't have a key. Before she touched the door, it opened. An older woman stood there, her mum, I guessed immediately. Same face shape, same eyes, just aged. The woman froze when she saw my date. Not a normal freeze. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes filled instantly. Lacey didn't speak. The woman whispered something I barely heard through the car window. She whispered that her daughter had been dead for 6 months. My whole body went numb. I couldn't process it. I thought she must have been mistaken or grieving or confused. But then I looked at the older woman's face. Her legs almost buckled. She held the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Tears ran down her face as she stared directly at the girl I had brought home. And my date. She didn't react. She just looked at the woman with this sad, tired expression, like she already knew everything the mother was saying. Like she'd known before I picked her up. Then she stepped inside. Quietly. Slowly. Like she'd been waiting to do it. The mother backed up without taking her eyes off her. She didn't slam the door. She just closed it gently, as if she was scared the girl on the other side might disappear as she made a sound. The street went silent. No lights turned on in the house. No shadows moved behind the curtains. I sat there for a full minute, unable to do anything except stare at the closed door. Then I drove away. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the date over and over, looking for signs she wasn't real. But she felt real. Her laugh, her cold hands, her voice, her scent, everything. The next morning I checked Tinder. She was gone. Not unmatched. Gone completely. Her profile didn't exist anymore. The only thing left was the address she'd given me, still sitting in my sat-nav history. A house that, according to a quick online search, really did lose a daughter 6 months ago. I swear this is one of those stories that didn't even start scary. It started annoying. Just something small that bothered me, something I brushed off way too quickly because I didn't want to be that person who overreacts on a first date. If I had reacted fast, maybe things wouldn't have gotten as messed up as they did. His name was Rowan. We matched on Tinder after maybe 2 swipes. He looked normal, like he actually had a life offline. A couple gym pics, but not the weird mirror ones, a festival photo, and one with a dog that I later found out wasn't even his. His messages were normal too, nothing intense. We joked a bit, talked about favorite food, the usual boring but comfortable stuff. We met at a small cafe near the station. I got there first. When he walked in, I recognized him instantly. He smiled, sat down, and put his phone face up on the table. That alone wasn't weird. Lots of people do that when they're trying to look polite and present. It didn't bother me. What bothered me was what was on the screen. It was Tinder. And it was on my profile. At first I actually got embarrassed, like maybe he opened it to double check I matched the photos. It wasn't flattering, but it wasn't creepy either. I laughed awkwardly and said something like, hopefully I look the same in real life. He grabbed his phone fast and flipped it over, saying he wasn't checking Tinder and that I must have seen it wrong. I didn't push it. We talked for a bit and things were fine. He was calmer in person than online. While he talked, he kept tapping the back of his phone with his thumb like he was reminding himself it was there. Not checking it, just tapping. Something about it made me notice the phone more. After maybe 15 minutes, he got up to order a drink. He left his phone behind by accident, or maybe on purpose, I still don't know. It was still face down, but when notifications lit up the screen, the phone vibrated and the display flashed again. Tinder was open. My profile was still showing, except something was wrong. My chest tightened instantly because the profile picture wasn't mine. It was me, but not me. It was a photo of me sitting at a bus stop last year. The exact bus stop near my old flat. I never posted that photo. Nobody took that photo except me with a timer on my old phone. It wasn't on Tinder. It wasn't online anywhere. I knew that for a fact. But there it was, on his screen, on my profile. I flipped the phone slightly more with my finger so I could see the rest of the profile. Every photo was wrong. Every single one. Not stolen pictures of other girls. Pictures of me. Real pictures of me. But not ones I uploaded. There was one of me leaving college. One of me inside Tesco putting my card into the machine. One of me walking my dog with my hood up. One of me sitting on a park bench scrolling on my phone. All taken from a distance. All from angles where I hadn't noticed anyone nearby. All me. All real. All stalker photos. I felt my whole body go cold. I scrolled down just a bit more before he returned. The bio wasn't mine either. It didn't say anything crazy. It was just a date. A specific date. One I recognized immediately. The day I joined Tinder. Not last week. Years ago. Back when I first downloaded the app when I was still in school. He came back holding 2 drinks, smiling like nothing was wrong. I pushed his phone gently toward him without saying anything. He didn't look at it. He put the drinks down and started talking again like he didn't notice how silent I'd gone. I tried to act normal, but my breathing felt tight. I kept replaying the images in my mind. Pictures taken before I even knew who he was. Pictures from years before we matched. Pictures nobody should have had. I told him I needed a second and went to the bathroom. I locked myself inside and opened my own Tinder profile to check. My real photos were still there, the ones I actually uploaded, not the ones from his phone. His version of my profile was different. A separate one. Or a duplicated one. Or something else entirely. I didn't know if it was some fake account he made or something worse. But the bio, that single date, was what scared me more than the pictures, because the date wasn't a famous day or an anniversary or anything like that. It was the date someone watched me long enough to know when I first downloaded Tinder. I stayed in the bathroom way too long. When I left, he was still sitting there, but this time he wasn't smiling. He watched me walk back like he was studying the way I moved, trying to memorize something. I sat down slowly, already planning how I'd leave. My heart was pounding so fast I could feel it in my throat. He leaned forward. Calm. Too calm. And he asked me if I liked the photos he'd chosen. Not the ones I uploaded. The ones he chose. I didn't answer. I stood up. He grabbed his phone quick but didn't grab my arm. He just watched me. Like he wanted to see exactly how I reacted. Like this was part of whatever he had planned. I left the cafe without looking back. I walked fast down the street, turning corners randomly until I was out of sight. I'd locked him on Tinder as soon as my hands stopped shaking enough for me to tap the screen properly. 5 minutes later, I checked the app again to be sure. My real photos were gone. Every single one. Replaced with pictures from his phone. The ones I never uploaded. The ones taken years before he met me. And under them was the bio I never wrote. Just that same date. The day he started watching me. I should have trusted my gut the second she said the first time, but I thought she was just trying to flirt in some weird, cheesy way. People always say dumb lines on first dates, so when she looked at me across the table and said she knew me from somewhere, I didn't take it seriously. I just laughed it off and said something like, maybe I had one of those boring, familiar faces. Her name was Keely. We matched on Tinder 2 days before the date. She wasn't over the top, not crazy filtered, just simple photos. One eating noodles, one outside somewhere cold, one leaning on a railing with the city behind her. She had that calm vibe. Not loud, not chaotic. Our messages were easy. Short but interesting. She didn't ask too many personal things, which made her seem safer than a lot of people on there. We agreed to meet at this small restaurant near my place. When she arrived, she looked exactly like her photos. Same long dark hair, same quiet expression like she was always thinking. She hugged me like she already knew me and said my name in a tone that felt way too familiar for 2 days of messaging. Red flag number 1, but I ignored it. We sat down, and right away she kept staring at me with this weird intensity. Not creepy stalker intense, but focused, like she was comparing something, measuring something. She tilted her head a lot, studying my face like she was trying to match me to a memory, and then she said it again. She said she knew me from somewhere. I laughed it off again, but she didn't laugh. She squinted a bit, like she was imagining me in a different context. Then she said I looked exactly the same. I asked, same as what? But she didn't answer. She just smiled and said I'd understand later. We ordered food, and she kept doing it. Not every minute, but often enough that I noticed. Little glances like she was double-checking something, comparing something in her mind. She even said at one point that meeting me felt overdue. I asked what that meant, but she just shook her head like she couldn't put it into words. At this point, it wasn't scary yet, just odd. I thought maybe she thought I looked like someone she went to school with or something. But then she started finishing my sentences. Not in that cute, we think alike way. More like she already knew what I was about to say. Every time she did it, she'd smile to herself like she was right about something. Halfway through the meal, she placed her hand on the table and said she had something to show me. Her tone got quieter, almost shaky, but in a way that made me tense. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Not ripped, not dirty, just a plain white envelope folded neatly. She slid it across the table toward me. She said I should open it carefully because she kept everything exactly how she found it. My stomach tightened for the first time. I didn't want to open it, but her eyes were locked onto me like she was waiting for the exact moment I realized something. I opened the flap. Inside were photographs. Printed screenshots. Not digital. Printed. The first picture I pulled out hit me so hard I actually thought my mind was playing tricks on me. It was my childhood home. Not just the house. Not a random Google screenshot. My front garden. My old driveway. My bedroom window. The angle was too perfect. Whoever took it was standing directly across the street from the house. The lighting was early morning. My old curtains were open. I could even see the corner of my bed through the glass. I felt my hand go cold as I stared at it. I hadn't lived there for years. The house didn't look like that anymore, and I had definitely never posted that online. I pulled out another screenshot. This one was the back of my old house, a picture from behind the fence, like someone was standing on the neighbor's side. It showed the sliding door my mom used to open when she called us in for dinner. It even showed the patch of grass where my bike always fell over. I felt sick. I asked her where she got the photos, but my voice sounded thin. She looked relieved that I finally asked. Not guilty. Relieved. She leaned closer and said she'd been waiting years to meet me. Years. Not days. Not weeks. Years. She said she'd known me since I was small, even though we'd never spoken. She said she remembered the first time she saw me. She described my old street like she'd lived there. She described the color of the door before we repainted it. She described the way the hedge looked in winter. She described things only someone physically standing there would know. I tried to interrupt, but she kept talking. And the more she talked, the more panicked I felt because she wasn't guessing. She wasn't trying to sound mysterious. She knew everything. Details I hadn't thought about in years. She said she used to visit the area with a family friend when she was younger. She said she watched the neighborhood kids playing outside. She said she noticed me first. She said she remembered my face the most. Every word made my skin crawl. She said she'd been waiting for the right moment, the right time, the right chance to meet me properly. She said Tinder wasn't an accident. She'd set her location specifically near mine because she knew I lived around here now. Then she said the line that nearly made me get up and run. She said she always knew I would come back to her somehow. I pushed the envelope away because I couldn't even look at the pictures anymore. My brain was trying to make sense of how she found my old home, how she kept those screenshots for years, why she printed them, why she brought them to the date. Her expression shifted when she saw I was pulling away. Not angry, not sad, just disappointed, like she expected me to be excited, like she thought I'd say something romantic or meaningful. Then she said she wasn't done showing me everything. She reached into her bag again. I didn't let her take anything else out. I stood up fast, mumbling something about needing the bathroom, but I didn't go to the bathroom. I walked straight out of the restaurant. I didn't look back at her. I didn't want to see her following me. Outside, I speed walked down the road and turned the corner before pulling out my phone. My hands were shaking badly. I didn't call anyone. I just opened Tinder and blocked her. But she had already unmatched me. Like she expected me to leave. Like she knew her moment with me was over. Later that night, I checked the envelope again. I don't even know why I took it with me instead of leaving it there. Maybe panic. Maybe instinct. The last photo in the stack wasn't of my childhood home. It was a picture of me taken last week. Standing outside my building, looking down at my phone. Shot from a distance. I still don't get why I agreed to get in his car. That's the part that messes with me the most. Everything leading up to it felt normal enough that my brain didn't set off any alarms. And now, thinking back, I can see all the weird parts I ignored because I didn't want to look dramatic or paranoid. But trust me, if a guy ever tells you what he told me, run. His name was Milo. His profile wasn't creepy. He looked like the quiet type. Soft smile, messy hair, hoodie in every pic. His bio was basic. Something about liking late-night drives and thrift shops. He messaged me first, and his messages were calm and simple. No weird flirting. No over-the-top behavior. The kind of guy who types in lowercase and seems socially awkward in a cute way. We planned to meet outside this cafe, but when I arrived, he texted saying the cafe was too crowded and asked if I'd mind if he just picked me up so we could drive somewhere quieter to talk. I didn't want to bail last minute, and it wasn't dark yet, and the road was full of people, so I said fine. I know that sounds dumb, but in the moment it didn't feel dangerous. His car pulled up, a small black hatchback. Nothing tinted or shady. He waved through the window like he wanted me to know he wasn't some creepy guy lurking. I got in the passenger seat. The car smelled like one of those vanilla air fresheners. Soft music was playing low. Milo smiled awkwardly and said he was happy I came. Then, right as he pulled off, he said something that instantly made me tense up. His voice changed a bit when he said it too. He told me not to look out the back window. Not like a joke. Not like, haha, don't check my messy backseat. He said it slow, serious, and then he added that I had to promise him. Promise. I laughed at first because I thought he was messing around, but he didn't laugh back. He kept his eyes on the road and repeated it in the same low tone. Don't look out the back window. My stomach tightened just a bit. I asked why, trying to keep it light. He shrugged, still staring forward, and said something about the view being distracting. It made no sense, obviously, but his tone made me drop it because arguing felt suddenly unsafe. I figured maybe the back window was cracked or dirty, or he had junk in the back seat that he didn't want me judging. I told myself not to overthink. For the first 10 minutes, we just talked. It was normal enough. He was a little odd, pausing in weird places during conversations, but nothing terrifying. The drive was calm. Streetlights passed over us in soft flashes. I started to relax. I almost forgot about the weird rule. Until I heard it. A sound I didn't understand at first. A slow, heavy breathing. Deep, wet, struggling. Coming from behind the glass. Not the back seat. Not next to me. Not outside in the wind. Behind the glass. Like someone was pressed up against the rear window, breathing slow and heavy, fogging out the inside of it. I froze instantly. I kept my eyes straight ahead because my whole body told me not to turn around. Not even a little. The sound didn't match anything logical. It didn't match the engine or the air conditioning or the road noise. It was breathing. Human breathing. But layered with something else. A dragging undertone. Like every breath scraped through something before coming out. My hands went cold. Milo didn't react. He didn't flinch. Didn't look in the mirror. Didn't acknowledge it at all. His eyes stayed locked on the road like he couldn't blink. The breathing got louder. Closer. I felt warmth hit the back of my neck, not physically, like something exhaled behind me. Like someone was leaning forward slightly, like something was inches behind the backseat. My whole chest felt tight. My brain kept telling me to run out of the car even though it was moving. I swallowed hard and asked him, barely above a whisper, if he heard that. He said no. He didn't ask what I meant. He didn't look confused. He just said, no too fast, too flat. The breathing behind the glass got wetter, like whoever, whatever, was back there was struggling to breathe normally. Every inhale rattled. Every exhale dragged on longer than a human breath should. I gripped the door handle without even meaning to. That's when the car jerked slightly, like Milo wanted my attention back on him. He said I shouldn't think about the back window too much. He said it with that same unnatural calmness, like he'd said it to people before. I asked where we were going. My voice cracked. He said, just somewhere quiet. He said it softly, like he thought it would comfort me. The breathing behind us hit the glass harder, not banging, just pressing. I could hear skin sticking to the window and peeling away with each movement. I couldn't help it. I turned my head slightly. Not to the window, just enough to see Milo's eyes in the side mirror. He was watching me. Not the road, not the mirror. Me. His knuckles tightened around the wheel. His breathing didn't match the sound behind us. His was steady. The one behind the glass was getting faster, more desperate, more excited. I forced myself to ask him to pull over. I tried to sound calm. Normal, like I wasn't seconds from crying. He shook his head and whispered, almost too quietly to hear, that it would make things worse if we stopped. Worse for who? He tightened his grip again. I didn't wait for an answer. I didn't think. I just acted. I had unbuckled my seatbelt fast, grabbed the door handle, and pushed it open while the car was still rolling. I jumped out onto the pavement hard enough that my elbow scraped instantly. I heard Milo shout something. Not angry, just shocked. But I didn't look back. I ran. I didn't stop even when I reached a main road. I didn't stop when cars honked. I didn't stop when my legs started shaking. When I finally turned around, his car was gone. Completely gone. No headlights. No taillights. No engine noise fading away. Just empty road. Later that night, I checked our Tinder chat to block him. His profile was already deleted. But my last sent message, the one confirming the date, had a weird glitch in the preview image. A faint foggy smear across the rear window of his car. A palm print. From the inside. I swear this is the one story I still can't talk about without my stomach turning, because out of every weird date I've had, this one felt the most personal. Not dangerous at first. Not loud or dramatic. Just slowly, quietly wrong in a way my brain didn't catch soon enough. Her name was Ilara. Even her name felt too pretty to be real, but she looked normal on Tinder. Not glam, not filtered, just that soft kind of cute where you assume she listens to calm playlists and drinks iced coffees at night. She messaged first. She wasn't trying too hard. Her jokes actually landed, and she didn't talk like someone pretending to be interesting. She asked about my job, what area I lived in, what my favorite food was. All simple things. We talked for 3 days before meeting. Pretty fast, but she didn't rush it. She even offered to meet somewhere public first so I felt comfortable. That alone made her seem trustworthy. We went to a little dessert place near the station. She walked in wearing this oversized jumper, her hair tied loosely like she didn't try too hard to dress up. She talked softly, almost too softly, but she kept smiling at everything I said. Not in a fake way either. She looked genuinely happy to be there. We ate, we talked, and the whole time she kept leaning in like she wanted to catch every word. She held eye contact for too long sometimes, but I assumed she was just shy or intensely focused. She wasn't creepy. Not yet. After a while, she asked if I wanted to go back to her flat to watch something. It was only a 10-minute walk, and she lived in a big building near the high street. Not a random house. Not a weird, isolated place. The kind of building with a concierge and no bad vibes. So I said yeah. I didn't see any reason to be worried. Her flat looked completely normal when we walked in. Neutral colors. A warm lamp in the corner. A small kitchen with clean counters. She had plants everywhere, the kind of person who names them and keeps them alive. Nothing scary. Nothing strange. She offered me a drink, went into the kitchen, and told me I could wait in her room because the living room TV was acting up. I hesitated, not wanting to seem too eager to go into her room, but she waved me off like it was no big deal, so I went. Her room at first glance was cute. Bed pushed against the far wall. Fairy lights around the window. A shelf with books and random trinkets. Everything looked soft and aesthetic. Except for one part. The wall directly opposite the bed. It was completely covered in sticky notes. Hundreds of them. Maybe over 1,000. All bright yellow, lined up almost perfectly, covering the wall from top to bottom like they were wallpaper. At first I laughed a little under my breath because I assumed they were motivational quotes or reminders or something quirky. But I walked closer, and my whole chest tightened. Every single sticky note had writing on it. Not random words. Not quotes. Not to-do lists. Every single one had my full name written on it. Not my first name. Not a nickname. My full government name. Written in different handwriting styles. Some messy, some neat, some small like a child wrote it. Some huge like someone scrawled it hurriedly. Some tilted, some straight, some bold, some faint, some in pencil, some in pen, some in marker. All the same name. My name. The exact spelling, the exact order. The same name I never use online. The same name I don't put on Tinder. The same name I didn't tell her. I froze so hard it felt like my entire body locked up. My mouth went dry instantly. I didn't understand at all. Not even a little. I kept blinking, hoping I was wrong, hoping it was some creepy coincidence or an art project she did years ago. But the notes weren't old. The ink looked fresh. Some were slightly curled at the edges like they'd been stuck up only hours before I walked in. I stepped back slowly, trying not to make a sound, and that's when I noticed something even worse. There were gaps. Empty spaces on the wall where sticky notes had clearly been removed. Not torn off randomly, peeled carefully. Like she had taken some down recently. Like she had been updating the wall. Like she wasn't done. I felt my whole face go cold. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My brain was screaming to run, but my body wouldn't listen. Then I heard her humming. Light, soft humming from the kitchen, getting closer. She sounded happy. Too happy. Her footsteps moved down the hall in that slow, relaxed pattern. Not rushing. Not trying to be quiet. Just casual. I turned away from the wall fast, pretending I'd been looking at her bookshelf. My hands were shaking so hard I hid them in my pockets. She came to the doorway holding 2 drinks, smiling like nothing was wrong. She didn't look nervous. She didn't look guilty. She looked excited. Like she had been waiting for me to see the wall. She asked if I liked her room. I forced a laugh and said yeah, playing dumb, heart pounding so loud I was scared she'd hear it. She walked past me to put the drinks down and her eyes flicked to the sticky notes for 1 second. Not in a panicked way. In a proud way. Like she was showing me something she worked hard on. I needed to leave, immediately, but I couldn't run. That would make everything worse. I pretended my phone buzzed and said I needed the bathroom quickly. She pointed down the hall, completely calm. The second I turned the corner, I walked fast. Not running yet, just fast enough to look normal. I passed the bathroom, didn't even glance at it, then sped up even more until I reached the front door. I opened it quietly, slipped out, and closed it behind me without making a sound. Then I ran, full sprint down the hallway, down the stairs because I didn't trust the lift, out the building doors, and down the street. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. My phone buzzed. A notification from Tinder. She unmatched you. Not blocked. Not deleted. Just unmatched. Like she finished what she wanted to do. That night I checked my social media, my email, my old accounts. I checked everything trying to figure out how she knew my full name. Nothing came up. Nothing connected us. But sometimes randomly when I'm doing nothing at all, the image of that wall flashes in my head. All those different handwriting styles. All writing the same thing. The one name I never gave her. I still don't really know how to explain this date without sounding like I'm making it up, because everything about it felt normal until it suddenly wasn't. And when it flipped so fast that my brain couldn't keep up with what was happening. I wasn't expecting anything scary at all. It was literally supposed to be a bowling date. Cheap, easy, public, bright lights, people everywhere. The least threatening thing in the world. His name was Callum. We matched on Tinder after messaging back and forth for like a week. He seemed normal. Chill guy, didn't spam my phone, didn't ask weird questions. He suggested bowling because he said he was terrible at it and needed someone to witness his record-breaking gutter ball streak. It sounded harmless and honestly kind of funny, so I agreed. The bowling place wasn't far. One of those neon-lit ones with loud music, arcade machines, the usual vibe. When I walked in, the place was packed. Groups everywhere, families yelling, machines beeping, shoes squeaking on the lane floors. Nothing creepy at all. I met him by the reception counter. He looked like his photos, just a bit taller. He hugged me, asked if I found the place okay, and everything seemed fine, until we went up to book our lane. He leaned over the counter and asked the staff guy for lane 7. Not a lane. Not any lane. Lane 7 specifically. The employee didn't even check the screen. He just shook his head immediately and said lane 7 wasn't available. Calm, but firm. Callum laughed like he thought the guy was joking and said it again, a little slower, like maybe he didn't hear him properly. The worker repeated himself, but this time looked uncomfortable. Like genuinely uncomfortable. He said lane 7 was closed. Out of use. Not functioning. Something like that. Callum's smile dropped a bit. Not fully angry yet, but tight around the edges. He asked why. The worker just said it wasn't in service tonight. Callum asked if it was broken. The worker hesitated. That was the first moment my stomach tightened. People don't hesitate when something's broken. They just say it. Another staff member walked over out of nowhere and said they could give us lane 4 or 10 instead. Really quick. Too quick. Like they were trying to distract him before he asked again. I even said we could take any lane because I really didn't care where we played. But Callum did. He straightened up and said he booked lane 7 in advance. His tone changed. Still low but way more serious. The workers exchanged a look. Not annoyed, not confused. Scared. Like actually scared. The first worker said again that lane 7 wasn't available tonight. He said it quietly, though, like he didn't want other customers to hear. Callum's jaw clenched. He leaned closer across the counter and lowered his voice to match. I don't know what it was about the way he said it, but it didn't sound like a request anymore. It sounded like a demand, calm, low, and irritated. The manager came over because she clearly noticed the tension. She tried to smooth it over by offering free shoe rentals and extra game tokens if we picked another lane. But Callum wasn't budging. He said he wanted lane 7. Only lane 7. The manager's face actually dropped when he said that, like she'd been hoping he wouldn't repeat it. She pulled him aside just a tiny bit and tried to talk quietly, but I heard enough to know she said something like lane 7 wasn't meant to be opened. Then Callum said something back that made her tense up, and suddenly she nodded. Fast, like she didn't want the conversation to go any further. A minute later, the worker unlocked lane 7 on the booking screen with shaky hands. That was the first moment I genuinely wanted to leave. We walked over to lane 7 and the area around it felt colder. Not freezing, just noticeably colder than the other lanes. Nobody else was bowling on either side of us. Every lane was booked except the ones directly next to ours. The space felt empty, even though the whole place was full. Callum seemed weirdly proud, like he won something. He kept glancing at me like he expected me to be impressed. I tried to smile, but my brain was already telling me something was wrong. The balls on our rack were dusty, actually dusty, like no one had touched them for ages. The lane itself looked slightly darker, not from lighting, but like the wood was older or the finish was duller. I thought maybe it was just poorly maintained, but the place was too modern for that. Then we stepped onto the lane. Not far, just the bowling area where you stand and throw. The second our feet crossed that faint wooden line, every light in the entire building shut off. Not dimmed. Not flickered. Shut off. All at once. The music cut mid-beat. The arcade sound stopped. Every lane light died. The neon signs went black. The vending machines shut down. The air conditioning cut out. Everything fell into total darkness, except for the faint emergency exit signs glowing red in the distance. A wave of screams burst from the crowd behind us. Chairs scraped. Kids cried. Phones lit up everywhere like little stars against the dark. But lane 7 was the darkest part of all. Like the shadows were heavier there. I couldn't see anything. Not Callum, not the pins, not the floor. Just black in every direction. I reached out instinctively to find him, but I couldn't feel anything. No arm, no shirt, nothing. Then he whispered something. Not a full sentence, just my name. But the way he said it made my chest tighten instantly. His voice wasn't right. It wasn't in front of me or behind me. It felt like it brushed past my ear even though no one was there. Too close. Too soft. Like he was inside the dark, not inside the room. I took a step back, or forward. I honestly couldn't tell. My foot hit something. Maybe the ball returned, and I grabbed it to steady myself. My heart was thumping so loud it sounded like it echoed. People around us were shouting for help, calling staff, panicking. But Callum's voice stayed low and calm in that same strange tone. He said I shouldn't move. He said I should stay exactly where I was. He said lane 7 reacts to movement. My entire body froze. I couldn't even breathe properly. Then, in the pitch black, something moved down the lane. Not walking. Sliding. Like something heavy dragging itself across the wood toward us. Slow at first, then faster. The sound was faint but sharp, the kind that makes every muscle in you lock up without thinking. I backed up until my shoulders hit the ball return. My phone was in my pocket, but my hands were shaking too much to grab it. The dragging grew louder, closer, but it was coming straight for the line we'd stepped over. I whispered his name because I didn't know what else to do. He didn't answer. The dragging stopped. Then the entire place lit up again. Bright lights everywhere. Music restarting. Kids laughing nervously. People talking like nothing happened except a power glitch. Everyone was back in normal motion. But Callum wasn't beside me. He was standing 30 feet away, near the couches, facing the wall with his hands in his pockets like he'd been waiting there the whole time. As if he hadn't moved at all. As if he hadn't been whispering to me in the dark. He turned around slowly and smiled at me like nothing happened. Then he said lane 7 wasn't as fun as he remembered. I left without saying goodbye. I didn't even look back. The next morning, I checked the bowling alley's website. Lane 7 has been listed as permanently closed since 2019. I don't even know why I kept this date going as long as I did, because looking back, everything felt slightly off from the very start. Not scary at first, just off. The kind of off you notice but ignore because you don't want to seem dramatic or paranoid. I swear that's literally the only reason I stayed. Her name was Raina. She looked normal in her pictures. Pretty but not overly edited. One photo with sunlight hitting her face, one mirror pic, one random one with her hair tied up. Nothing suspicious. Her messages were fine too. She wrote normally, didn't ask weird questions, didn't overshare. She suggested we meet halfway between our areas, which actually made her seem safer because most strange people try to get you near their place. We picked a coffee shop near a small park, very public, middle of the day. Zero horror vibes. I even remember thinking the date was going to be boring in a good way. When she showed up, she looked exactly like her profile. That should relax me, but she kept glancing at her phone so much it messed with the whole energy. Not like she was bored or trying to escape. More like she was waiting for something. Like she was expecting a message that mattered more than our date. At first, I brushed it off. Everyone checks their phone. I do it too. But she would look down at it even mid-sentence, even when I asked a question, even when she pretended to laugh. Her eyes would flicker over her notifications like she was tracking something. We ordered drinks and sat near the window. She held her phone under the table the whole time, but not in a secretive way. More like someone constantly checking the time. Every few minutes her screen lit up, and she tilted away from me so I couldn't see. Normal behavior if you're being private, I guess, but she was doing it too often. The longer we sat there, the more jittery she looked. Not nervous about me. Nervous about something else. She kept glancing out the window like she expected someone to walk past. I asked if she was okay. She said, yeah, just tired, then immediately checked her phone again. I caught the screen reflection in the glass for half a second. It wasn't messages. It looked like a map. My stomach tightened a little, but I told myself she was probably checking travel stuff or waiting for her bus schedule or whatever. Nothing scary. We finished our drinks, and she suggested we walk through the park because it wasn't far. I didn't want to go at first, but the cafe was getting cramped and walking felt harmless. The park wasn't forest-level scary. It was one of those open parks where you can see everything. Joggers everywhere. Parents with kids. Old people feeding birds. If anything, it felt too public to be dangerous. But the moment we stepped outside, she checked her phone again. I swear she checked it 10 times before we even reached the park gates. She kept walking a little faster than me and then slowing down, like she was adjusting her pace to something her phone was showing. It didn't make sense. She wasn't tracking steps. I could tell by how she moved. She was tracking distance. She kept glancing at me like she needed to make sure I was still next to her. We reached the middle path, and that's when I saw it. Not on purpose. Not because she showed me. Her phone buzzed. She lifted it too fast, and the angle let me see the screen clearly for a full second. My name. My name was on her screen. Under it was a little gray bubble showing my location on a map. Not the general area. Not my neighborhood. My exact dot. The dot that updates every few seconds as you walk. Above it was the name of the group chat. Bring him. Not bring him here. Not bring him over. Just bring him. Like I wasn't a person. Like I was some object being collected. My chest tightened instantly. My brain started racing through every possible explanation, and none of them made sense. I didn't share my location with her. I didn't give her anything personal. There was no way she should have been able to track me. I never even saved her number. I forced my steps to slow down so she walked ahead slightly. She kept looking behind her like she wanted me to keep close. She even gave me this weird tight smile, almost nervous but also weirdly encouraging, like she needed me to keep going just a bit further. I pretended to tie my shoe so I could stall without her realizing. She stopped walking too, turning her phone slightly, probably checking the map again. I took that second to look around. The park wasn't empty. But the people inside it weren't normal anymore. 3 different men were standing at separate points along the pathway, all pretending to stare at their phones, all glancing up at us at the same rhythm, like they were checking something about me, like they were waiting for a signal. Raina's phone buzzed again. Hard. The vibration was aggressive enough that she flinched. She unlocked it right there, and I saw the message pop up before she tilted it away. He's close enough. Bring him now. Not bring him here. Not we're waiting. Bring him now, like she was delivering something. That was it. I wasn't staying another second. I stood up straight fast and said I needed to use the bathroom in the cafe. My voice cracked slightly because I was so tense, but I forced a smile. She nodded quickly, too quickly, like she didn't care why I was leaving as long as she could walk with me. I said I'd go alone because I didn't want her to lose the table. She didn't buy it at first. Her face dropped. She insisted she'd wait outside for me, that we could keep walking after, but I kept repeating it lightly like I didn't notice how panicked she sounded. Finally, she said fine and told me she'd stay on the bench. She didn't sit. She watched me walk away. I didn't go back to the cafe. I didn't go anywhere near people waiting. The moment I turned a corner and she couldn't see me, I sprinted across the grass or on the back path and straight out of the park through the far exit. I didn't look behind me. I didn't breathe properly until I reached the main road. When I checked my phone later, she had unmatched me. But the worst part, my location sharing settings on my phone were still turned off. Meaning she wasn't getting my location from anything I gave her. Meaning someone else had already been tracking me before the date even started. Meaning the group chat expecting me wasn't hers alone. Someone else already had my dot. And she was just the one meant to bring me. I'm honestly still embarrassed that I didn't clock how weird it was straight away, because looking back, the signs were everywhere before the date even started. When you're getting ready and you're kind of excited, and you spent the last few days messaging someone who seems normal enough, your brain doesn't jump to danger. It jumps to hoping the date isn't awkward, that's it. His name was Jay. He messaged first, and he wasn't creepy or clingy. He had that easy, casual way of talking where he replied fast, but not too fast. He asked good questions. He wasn't boring, and he didn't make everything about himself. That alone made him feel above average on Tinder. We picked a day to meet pretty quickly because we both had free evenings, and I remember thinking the timing felt nice. I told him what I was wearing because he asked if the place was dressy or chill. I said I was doing simple black cargos, a white vest top, and my red jacket. I wasn't trying to be cute. I was genuinely just telling him the vibe so he could match it. But the moment he asked for a photo of the outfit, so he didn't overdress, my brain did get a tiny bit suspicious. Not alarmed, just like, that's kind of specific. But whatever. Guys ask worse things every day, so I sent a quick mirror pic in my room. He didn't reply for 10 minutes. Then he sent a thumbs up emoji. That was it. I didn't think about it again until I got to the meeting spot. The second he walked toward me, I froze so hard I actually forgot to say hi. He wasn't just wearing something similar. He was wearing the exact same outfit. Black cargos, white vest, red jacket. Not close enough to be funny, I mean exact. Same cut, same shade, same length. His jacket even had the same tiny stitching detail on the sleeve mine did. And the way he smiled when he saw my face drop. That was the first moment something felt properly off. He said he wanted to match my energy. He said it like it was a compliment, like he expected me to be impressed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I told him he must have planned it, and he said he didn't want to make me feel alone in my style. The whole time he talked, he kept adjusting his jacket the exact same way I did when I felt awkward. I didn't notice that at first, but later it kept replaying in my head. We started walking toward the restaurant. Nothing major happened for a few minutes, so I tried to relax. Maybe he was just quirky. Maybe he thought it was cute couple stuff, even though we didn't even know each other yet. But then I caught our reflection in a shop window. He was walking at the exact same pace. Not just step for step. He was matching the rhythm of my steps. My small steps when I slowed down. My faster ones when I sped up. He even matched the tiny bouts I have when I'm cold. It was like he studied me. I tested it on purpose. I dragged my left foot slightly for one step, just to see. He did it too. Perfectly. I'm not stupid. My stomach clenched instantly. That wasn't a coincidence. That wasn't him trying to be sweet. That was someone copying me without breaking eye contact with the ground ahead of him. Like it was natural to him. Like he wasn't even thinking about it. Inside the restaurant, things got worse. He kept touching his hair like I did. Same pattern. Same timing. At first I thought he was fidgety, but then I realized he had styled his hair exactly like mine. Same parting, same messy fringe falling the same way. I hadn't sent him any close-up pics of my hair. Not recently. Not that day. So I didn't understand how he got that accurate. I pushed my hair behind my ear out of nerves. He did it too. Not delayed. Immediately. That's when I looked closer at what he was wearing around his neck. My heart actually stopped. He had the same necklace as me. A thin silver chain with a tiny charm. A charm that wasn't a popular one you get in shops. Mine was from a random stall on holiday ages ago. I had never posted it. I had never mentioned it. But there it was on him. The same shape, the same scratches, the same dark spot on the metal from where the chain rubbed. I asked where he got it, trying to sound casual. He shrugged and said something like he liked matching people he vibed with. But the way he said it felt wrong. Too comfortable. Too certain that copying me wasn't strange. I pretended to check my phone because I needed something to focus on besides him. When I looked up again, he had changed how he sat in his chair. He sat exactly how I was sitting. If I crossed one leg, he crossed the same one. When I leaned forward slightly, he leaned forward the same amount. Even the way I held my hands together on the table, he mirrored it perfectly, down to the angle of my fingers. Every time I moved, he moved. And he didn't laugh about it or tease me. He acted like nothing weird was happening. Like this was how dates were supposed to go. I couldn't eat. I couldn't even pretend to eat. My appetite vanished. I told him I wasn't feeling well and might go home. He didn't get upset or anything. He just tilted his head to the side the exact same way I did when I was speaking. Then he said he understood because he felt the exact same thing I was feeling. And he said, exact same, with his quiet confidence like he meant it literally. We stood up to leave, and the second I stepped outside the restaurant, I picked up my walking pace on purpose. Not too fast, just enough that a normal person would naturally walk differently. He matched it instantly. I switched the way I swung my arms. He switched his the same way. I stopped walking completely, pretending to check my phone. He stopped too. Not a second later. Not a slight delay. Instant. Like my reflection, the breathing. I told him my bus was coming soon and I'd message him. He smiled, the same smile I'd caught myself doing earlier in the mirror before I left home. He even tilted his chin the same way I did when I said goodbye. I walked past the bus stop. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see him copying me again. When I got home, I blocked him everywhere. Not because he was rude or aggressive. It was because he wasn't himself at all. He was me. Or trying to be. 2 days later, I looked through our messages again before deleting them completely. I wanted to see if I missed warning signs, and that's when I noticed something that made everything worse. The mirror pic I sent him of my outfit. Someone had screenshot it. Not once. 4 times. I don't know how to explain this story in a way that doesn't sound stupid at the start, because the whole thing began in the most harmless way possible. I wasn't expecting anything weird. I wasn't even looking for anything serious. It was just a normal night, scrolling on Tinder because I was bored and avoiding homework. Nothing intense. Nothing creepy. Just swiping. Her name was Mara. Short hair, sharp features. That confident look some girls have where they seem older than they actually are. Her profile didn't have much on it. 3 photos, no bio, no weird lines, nothing to make me think twice. I almost didn't swipe her because the profile looked empty, but something about her eyes in the last pic made me stop. It wasn't flirty or anything. It just felt like she was looking at me, straight at me, so I swiped. Instant match. Fine happens sometimes. She messaged first pretty much instantly. Not a long message, nothing deep. Just asking what I was doing. I replied normally, saying I was chilling in my room. She kept asking small things like what I was watching, where I lived in London, what kind of music I liked. It was normal enough that I didn't think twice. Then she sent the first live photo. It wasn't a selfie. It wasn't anything weird. It was a picture of a random tube station platform. No context. No caption. Just a live photo. I thought she sent it by accident, like from her camera roll. It happens. So I just double tapped it to like it and carried on the convo. She waited a minute and sent another one. This time it was a picture of a window somewhere. Not her face. Not anything that made sense. Just a window with curtains blowing slightly like the wind was hitting it from outside. I laughed to myself because I assumed she must be sending the wrong thing. I told her live photos were popping up instead of texts, but she didn't reply. She just sent another one. Picture number 3. This one made me pause a little. It was a picture of the floor, but the floor looked like mine. Same color carpet, same little dark patch near my desk where I spilled coffee months ago, but I brushed it off. Loads of carpets looked the same. I told myself I was being dramatic. Then she sent a fourth. This time it was my desk. My actual desk. Same scratched corner, same cheap lamp, same exact layout. And before my brain could come up with a normal explanation, the live photo moved. Only half a second, but enough for the audio to click on. In that tiny moment of movement, there was a blur behind the chair, a shape, a shadow, something that wasn't there when I took the picture, except I didn't take this picture. I looked behind me in real life because my stomach instantly dropped, and of course nobody was there. My room was empty. The whole flat was quiet. I didn't reply. I didn't know what to say. I just stared at my screen trying to convince myself this was edited or stolen from some old post of mine. But I never posted my room online. I never took a picture from that angle, and the lighting matched exactly how the room looked right then. Then she sent the fifth one. This was the one that ruined everything. It was a picture of me. Me sitting on my bed wearing the same hoodie I had on right at that moment. But the picture wasn't taken from the front. It was taken from behind me, over my shoulder, like someone was standing at the back of my room watching me. For a full 10 seconds, I couldn't breathe. I turned around again in real life so fast my neck cracked. Nothing. No one. My door was closed. The window was locked. My room was silent. I tapped the live photo because at this point I needed to understand what I was dealing with. The image moved for that tiny half second, and that's when I saw her. Mara. Her face was right behind me in the moving frame, not smiling, not posing, just watching me, staring at me like I didn't even know she existed. Her hair was covering half her face, but I recognized her eyes immediately. The same eyes from her Tinder picture. The same eyes that looked like they were staring at me before I even matched her. I swear the temperature in my room dropped instantly, like someone opened a freezer door. My hands were sweating, but I felt cold. My chest felt weird. I kept checking behind me even though I knew there was nothing there physically. Before I could even try to message her, she sent another live photo. This time she didn't wait. The image loaded instantly, and I felt sick the moment I saw it. It was a picture of my bed. Not from earlier. Not some saved angle. It was my bed right then, with the blanket exactly how it was, the pillow slightly tilted from how I'd been leaning. And in the live photo movement, I saw her crawl into the frame. Not walk. Crawl. Her hand slid into view first, reaching toward the end of my bed, like she was pulling herself across the floor in silence. Then her head lifted slightly, hair falling over her face, and she tilted it just enough that I could see one eye staring right into the camera. My camera. Like she was holding my phone. Except my phone was in my hand. I dropped my phone. I actually dropped it onto the carpet. The sound made me jump because the whole room felt too quiet. I backed up into the wall so I could see every corner of my room at once. Nothing moved. Nothing looked off. But the pictures kept coming. My phone buzzed 4 times in a row. I didn't want to look. I really didn't. But I could not look. The first new photo was the outside of my bedroom door. The second was the hallway. The third was the kitchen. All taken from high up like someone taller than me was holding the phone above their head to get a wide angle. Then came the last one. A picture of my bedroom door from the outside. The live photo moved slightly, and that split second, I heard breathing. Slow, deep breathing like someone was inches from the phone. I opened my door so fast it bounced off the wall, but the hallway was empty. Nothing. Silence, like the flat had been untouched forever. No sign of anyone walking, no sign of anything moving. When I checked the Tinder chat again, her profile was gone. Not unmatched. Deleted, like it never existed. I backed up every photo to see if I could find metadata, but they all show they were sent from her device, not mine. No location tags. No hidden files. Nothing helpful. And the worst part? None of the photos were saved to my camera roll. Meaning they weren't taken on my phone. Meaning whoever sent them had real-time access to my room from an angle I still can't figure out. I didn't sleep that night or the next. I keep checking corners before I sit down now. I can't look at my phone camera without thinking someone else is behind me, waiting for the live photo to move again. I still can't believe I actually walked into that flat. If I had just gone home like I planned, none of this would have happened. But I told myself to stop overthinking everything and try to actually meet someone from Tinder instead of just talking forever and flopping last minute. That night, I was in a brave mood for no reason, and honestly, that was the biggest mistake of the whole thing. His name was Theo. His profile wasn't weird at all. He had those clean, normal-looking photos where he's at a cafe, one at the gym, and one with his sister or cousin or whoever. His bio was just him saying he liked cooking and long walks. We matched because we both swiped at the same time. He messaged me first, but not in a creepy way. He was calm, polite, kind of funny. He didn't rush me to meet. He didn't ask anything strange. It all felt regular. We talked for about a week. He said he lived not far from my area, near a set of new-build flats behind a big supermarket. I knew the area. My aunt lives on the same road, so I felt like it wasn't risky. He asked if I wanted to come over for a meal since he cooked a lot. Normally, I say no to that on a first meet, but he didn't push it. He even said we could go out instead. That made him seem safer, like he actually cared how I felt about it. But I said yes to the flat because the weather was awful and I didn't want to go out in the rain. He sent me his address, and I told a friend everything, just in case. The building looked perfectly normal when I got there. Clean lobby, working lift, nothing dodgy. He opened the door smiling like he had been waiting right behind it. The flat wasn't messy. It wasn't dirty. It was actually kind of nice. Warm, bright, with the smell of something cooking. It felt safe for the first 2 minutes. Then I noticed the first weird thing. Every door inside the flat had a lock on the outside. Not normal locks. Heavy metal slide locks. The kind you see on storage units were sheds. Thick silver, scratched. Every single door. The bathroom. The bedroom. Even the door to what looked like a tiny laundry cupboard. All of them had the same style lock, placed high up, meant for someone standing outside. I stared at one for too long without realizing. He saw me looking and casually said it was just for safety. I didn't understand what that meant. Safety from what? Safety for who? The flat was small. There was no reason to lock anything like that. But he said it so casually, like it wasn't something to think about, and I didn't want to seem rude. He went to the kitchen to check the food, and I stood in the hallway pretending to look at some framed photo just so I didn't look suspicious. But my eyes kept going back to the locks. They bothered me. They felt wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Things like that aren't normal unless someone is hiding something. Or someone. I told myself maybe he had a weird past flatmate or something. Maybe he got anxious about people opening doors. But then I noticed the scratches. The metal around the locks had long, thin scratches around them. From the inside, not the outside, like something scraped at them. He came back out of the kitchen and asked if I wanted a drink. I said water. He went to get it, and as soon as he walked away, I checked the door to the hallway, the one leading out of the flat. That door didn't have a lock on the outside, because it had one on the inside, a heavy one. Like someone wanted whoever was inside to stay inside. He came back with the water, and I tried my best to act normal. I was already thinking of leaving within the next minute, but I didn't want to make it obvious. He suggested we sit on the sofa for a bit before eating. I said sure, even though my whole body was telling me no. We sat down, and the TV was on some random cooking show for background noise. He started talking about his job, but I couldn't focus. All I could think about was those locks. I felt like the flat was closing in. I waited for a moment where he wasn't looking and texted my friend, saying the flat felt weird. I didn't want to panic her, so I left it vague. But before I could hit send, he stood up and said he needed to grab something from his room. The room with a lock on the outside. I pretended to smile and nodded, trying to not look scared. He walked down the short hallway, opened the bedroom door, went inside, and closed it behind him. That's when everything went silent. No TV sound, no kitchen sounds, no movement, just silence. Then I heard the metal scrape, slow, heavy, the sound of a lock sliding. I froze instantly. My body didn't even move. My mind didn't make excuses anymore. I knew that sound. I knew he was locking something, but I couldn't tell if it was the bedroom door he locked or something else. Then I heard another one. Slide. Then another. Slide. 3 separate locks, one after another. Not rushed, not panicked. Calm, like he did it so many times he didn't need to think. My heart dropped into my stomach. I stood up so fast the water nearly spilled. I didn't know which door he locked, and I didn't know if he planned to come out again. The only door that mattered was the front one. I grabbed my bag and went straight for it. The flat suddenly felt smaller. The hallway felt tighter. I swear I could hear breathing from behind one of the locked doors, but maybe that was just me losing it. When I reached the front door, I grabbed the handle and twisted. Unlocked. I didn't look back. I didn't wait. I didn't take my shoes. I didn't even take a full breath. I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway, and the second my foot hit the floor, I ran. I didn't care how it looked. I sprinted down the hall, hit the lift button once, then changed my mind and bolted down the stairs. I didn't stop running until I was outside in the rain. I didn't look back to see if he followed. I didn't want to know. My friend called me right after because I forgot to delete the half-written message. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I told her where I was and walked straight home. He unmatched me an hour later. His profile disappeared completely the next day. A week after that, I went past the building again just because I needed to see it in the daytime. The flat window was open. No curtains, just darkness inside, like nobody ever lived there. I never found out what those locks were for, or why he slid them shut the moment he walked away from me. I'm still confused how this even happened because it wasn't one of those dramatic horror stories you hear online. It started normal. Too normal. It actually felt like one of the most standard dates I'd been on in a while, which is why the whole thing still feels like stepping into someone else's nightmare by accident. So her name was Leela. We matched on Tinder on a random Sunday evening. I wasn't even trying to meet anyone serious. I was bored, swiping, half watching a YouTube video in the background. Her profile wasn't anything wild. 3 photos, nothing filtered too heavy. She had long dark hair, kinda messy in a pretty way, and this expression like she'd just been caught laughing. Her bio was short. Something about wanting to try a new restaurant every week. I messaged her first. She replied fast. We spoke for maybe an hour before she said she was free tomorrow night and asked if I wanted to meet for food. Usually that's a red flag. Most people want at least a few days texting before meeting, but she didn't push anything weird. She just said she was hungry and wanted company. I didn't think too hard about it. I picked this small restaurant near the high street because it wasn't loud, and the food was decent. The next night, I got there early. I don't know why. I guess I didn't want her waiting alone. When she walked in, she looked exactly like her pictures, but somehow faded. Not unhealthy, just like she hadn't been outside much. Her clothes were simple, hair brushed but not styled. She smiled when she saw me, and that's when I noticed something strange. Not about her, but about everyone else. The second she stepped into the restaurant, 3 people turned their heads at the same time. Then 2 more. The waiter at the bar stared so long he forgot he was pouring water. I thought I was overthinking it. Maybe she went to school with people around here or something. Maybe she used to work nearby. But then the whispers started. Not loud. Just little glances, elbows nudging, people looking at her like they couldn't believe she was there. Not looking at me. Only her. We sat down at a table near the back. She asked if the place was good. I told her yeah. That's when I noticed the couple behind her staring so intensely it almost looked rude. The guy looked pale. The girl looked like she wanted to get up and leave. I tried to ignore it because I didn't want her to think something was wrong with her hair or her clothes. She didn't seem to notice any of it. She just kept smiling softly, looking around like the whole place was brand new to her. The waiter came over, and when he saw her face up close, he froze. Actually froze. His eyes went wide, his breath caught, and then he looked at me like I did something insane. I said we were ready to order, and he snapped out of it like someone tapped him on the shoulder. He took our order, walked off, and immediately started whispering to another waiter. Both of them kept turning their heads back to look at her. Then the manager came out from the back and stood there pretending to check the seating chart, just so he could stare at her too. By then I was seriously uncomfortable. I kept checking her expression to see if she picked up on anything, but she just kept chatting calmly about how she never tried this place before, how she liked how warm the lights were, how the tables looked old in a cool way. She acted like she hadn't eaten in a restaurant for ages. She kept tracing circles on the table with her finger, smiling at little things like the salt shaker or the candle. The food hadn't even arrived yet when the waitress came back, but instead of serving anything, she leaned toward me and quietly asked if she could talk to me for a second. She wasn't looking at me properly. Her eyes kept drifting to my date like she was scared to take her eyes off her. I excused myself and followed the waitress a few steps toward the side hallway near the bathrooms. She didn't waste time. She asked why I was here with that girl. Her voice sounded more like begging than questioning. I thought maybe this was some messed up prank, like the restaurant was doing something weird. I said it was a normal date. Nothing strange. The waitress looked like she was about to cry. She told me the girl sitting at my table went missing 2 years ago. I thought she was messing with me. I honestly did. But the way she said it wasn't dramatic or mocking. It was straight fear. She kept saying she recognized her face from the posters and neighborhood searches, that the entire town had been looking for her, that she disappeared without any trace. Nobody ever found out what happened. My stomach dropped so fast it felt physical. I thought maybe it was someone who just happened to look like her. But the reaction in the restaurant wasn't the kind of reaction people have to a look-alike. It was too specific, too scared, too real. The waitress told me not to go back to the table yet, but I had to. My date was still sitting there. I needed to look at her again, properly, now that my brain had something heavy to compare her face to. When I walked back, she wasn't smiling anymore. She was sitting perfectly still, hands folded, eyes locked on me like she had been waiting for me to return for years, not minutes. The whole restaurant went silent. Nobody even pretended to eat anymore. I sat down slowly. She leaned forward a little, not enough to make it dramatic, but enough that it made my spine tense. She asked if everything was all right. Her voice wasn't suspicious. It was soft, curious, almost hopeful, like she genuinely had no idea why people were staring. Before I could answer, the manager came over. He didn't even talk to me. He talked to her. He said her name. A name I hadn't heard before. A name that wasn't on her Tinder profile. When he said it, her whole expression dropped. Not shocked. Not scared. Just blank, like someone pressed pause. She said she didn't know that name, but she said it too fast. Too automatically. Something in her tone cracked at the end. People started taking out their phones. Not recording, but calling someone. Probably the police. Probably her family. Probably whoever had spent 2 years wondering where she went. She looked around slowly like she was waking up from something. Then she looked at me, and her eyes changed. They weren't confused anymore. They were sad. Not in a biting way. More like she already knew this moment was coming. She whispered something so low I barely caught it. She said she didn't mean to ruin my night. Then she stood up, walked calmly toward the back exit, and slipped out before anyone could reach her. They found nothing outside. No footprints. No camera footage. No direction she went. They had my chat logs, my messages, my proof she matched me. But her profile was gone completely. Deleted like it never existed. She just walked away again, the exact same way she did 2 years before. I'm not even sure how to start this without it sounding like I'm exaggerating. But this whole thing still plays in my head like one long messed up walk I never should have gone on. It didn't feel dangerous at first. It actually felt too normal, which is why I'm still annoyed at myself for not picking up on the weird stuff straight away. So the guy's name was Aaron. We matched on a random weekday. Nothing special. His pics were basic, his bio was boring, and honestly the only reason I matched him was because he messaged me first with something that actually made me laugh. We spoke for a couple days. He didn't give weird energy over text. No bragging, no dodgy stories, nothing like that. Just chill. We planned to meet at this little cafe near my area. The cafe was closed early that day, though, and instead of just calling it off or picking somewhere new, he said he knows this nice quiet neighborhood nearby where he likes to walk. I didn't think it was a big deal. People go on walks all the time. Plus, it was still a bit light out, like that awkward stage where the sky is dim, but you can still see everything. The neighborhood wasn't far from the main road, which made it feel safer. The houses were all those detached types with big lawns and low fences, the kind of place where people actually talk to their neighbors. It wasn't rich, it was just tidy. Too tidy. I noticed that later. Right away, Aaron walked slightly ahead of me, not beside me. It wasn't rude, but it was strange, like he wanted to lead. He kept checking over his shoulder to make sure I was keeping up. Every time I did, he'd smile this soft little smile like he was proud of me for walking. It didn't click at the start. We went deeper into the neighborhood, and for a while nothing really happened. He talked mostly about random things like his childhood street and how he used to ride his bike everywhere. But he wasn't pointing at real places, just talking like the neighborhood was his and nobody else's. Then something weird happened on the second street we turned onto. As we walked past the first house, its porch light flicked on. Not like a sensor light. It was too slow, too deliberate. It glowed warm, not the cold white sensor type. I didn't think too much of it. People turn lights on. But then the house next door turned theirs on too. Same exact timing after we passed. Same warm glow. Then the next house after that. One by one. Like a slow wave following us down the pavement. I stopped walking for a second and looked around. The street was quiet. No dogs. No traffic. No people inside the windows. Just lights turning on as we passed like we triggered something. Before I could even comment, Aaron looked back at me with this weird calm expression and nodded like I passed a question on a test. He said I was doing great so far, just like that. Like this was something I was meant to handle step by step. The way he said it made my stomach twist. It wasn't friendly. It sounded like he was reassuring someone who didn't agree to anything. I kept walking because stopping felt worse, like standing still would make me more noticeable. I didn't want the lights to catch up to me. We kept moving and the pattern didn't stop. As soon as we passed a house, its porch light turned on behind us. I counted at least 15 houses doing it. But the weirdest part, not all houses had their curtains closed. Some had windows wide open with the blinds rolled up, but no one was inside. Not a single person in any living room. No shadows, no movement, nothing. It felt like the whole neighborhood stopped existing except the lights. I tried to act normal. I didn't want him to think I was panicking because I didn't know what this was. Maybe he had friends messing with him. Maybe the houses used the same timer, even though those excuses made no sense. I told him I should probably head back soon because it was getting dark. Instead of agreeing, he smiled again the same way and said we were almost at the part he wanted to show me. His voice sounded too rehearsed, like he'd said that same line before to someone else. We turned onto another street. This one was even quieter. The street lamps were spaced out far apart, leaving huge dark gaps between each pool of light. The houses here weren't turning their lights on yet. They stayed dark as we approached them, which almost felt worse because it felt like they were waiting for a cue. He slowed down and looked back at me again. He didn't look excited or nervous, just focused. He said I should stay close now. Not because anything bad would happen, but because being too far behind makes it harder. Harder for what? He didn't say, just kept walking. The first porch light on that street switched on right as I reached the start of the pavement. Then the next one. Then another. All of them following the same pattern as before, like they knew exactly where we were. But this time, some of the lights flickered before turning solid, almost like someone inside was flipping the switch manually. I sped up to walk next to him even though the whole point earlier was him walking ahead. He didn't even react to the change. He just carried on, turning corners like he lived there. But the deeper we got, the fewer cars I saw parked on driveways, fewer decorations, fewer signs of actual life. The whole neighborhood felt staged. Finally, I told him I needed to go home. Not in a rude way, just normally. He stopped walking in front of this house with a big wooden fence and looked at me like he was confused why I'd even say that. Then he said I was nearly done and I shouldn't ruin it now. Ruin what? He didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly as if listening for something behind us. That made me look back down the street, and that's when I realized something that nearly made me run. All the porch lights we had passed were still on. Every single one. But none of the other streets behind us had lights on. Only the path we walked. Like a breadcrumb trail, but glowing. I told him I really had to leave. This time firmer. He looked down at the pavement for a second and then sighed like he was disappointed. Not angry. Just disappointed, like I didn't finish whatever he thought I was supposed to finish. He told me the exit was back the way we came, and then he stepped aside like he was letting me walk past. I didn't trust him at all, but I needed to get out, so I walked past him slowly. He didn't touch me, didn't follow too close. He just walked behind me at the same speed, not talking. I walked faster once I turned onto the main road again. The porch lights didn't follow me anymore. The moment I stepped out of that last street, everything went dark behind me, like the neighborhood went back to sleep. I looked once over my shoulder. He was still standing at the entrance of the street watching me walk away. He didn't wave. He didn't say anything. Just stood there like he was waiting for someone else to show up. I unmatched him as soon as I got home. I didn't block him because I didn't want to know if he tried to message me again. The whole thing felt too organized, like I had walked through something I wasn't meant to see. I still don't know why the lights did that, and I don't know what he meant when he told me I was doing great so far. I'm just going to be real from the start, because this still sits weird in my head, and even now, I don't know how to explain it in a normal way. This wasn't some crazy haunted thing or whatever. It was just one of those moments where someone does something so off that your stomach drops instantly. I wasn't even supposed to be going on a date that night. I was half bored, half scrolling out of habit, and then this girl pops up. Her name was Emily. Pretty normal pictures, nothing over the top. No filters that make you second guess. Her vibe in the messages was calm too, like she wasn't trying to be mysterious or anything. She actually seemed kind of funny. We talked for maybe 4 hours straight before agreeing to meet the next day. I didn't think anything of it. Loads of people talk for ages online. The plan was simple. I'd pick her up outside her place, and we'd grab something to eat. No big setup, no big expectations. When I pulled up to her road, she was already outside standing under this flickering street lamp. I noticed straight away she wasn't one of those girls who pretend they're shorter than they are or whatever. She was tall, and the way she stood looked like she was listening to something behind her, not like she was waiting for me. She looked at my car for a second, then at the pavement behind her, and then walked toward me slowly. Not scared, just careful. I reached over and pushed open the passenger door for her, thinking I'd be polite. She didn't even look at it. She just shook her head, walked around the car, and got into the back seat right behind me like I was her personal driver. She didn't explain, didn't say anything, just sat directly behind me. I tried not to take it personally because some girls do that for safety. Fair enough. I'm a guy she just met. I get it. I didn't want to be weird about it. But when I glanced at her in the rear view mirror, she wasn't looking at me. She was staring at the empty seat next to her, like someone was supposed to be sitting there, like she was waiting for them to move or talk or something. At first I thought, cool, maybe she's just awkward or she's avoiding eye contact or whatever. I'm not the type to judge. I pulled out of her road, started driving toward the main street, and tried making small talk. She didn't reply, not even a nod, just sat stiff with her head turned toward the empty seat beside her. Then her lips moved. At first I thought she was mumbling to herself, maybe reciting something or calming herself down. But the longer it went on, the more it looked like she was whispering to someone. But the seat was empty. Completely empty. My brain started picking up on little things I missed, like how she would tilt her head slightly as if she was listening to a reply, or how she kept shifting her knees away from the middle like she was making space for someone who wasn't there. I remember thinking, all right, maybe she's on the phone, but she wasn't holding anything. No AirPods, no wires, nothing. And the whispers were too low to be anything like a phone call. It was like she was whispering secrets into someone's ear. I kept my eyes on the road, but every time I checked the mirror, she was doing the same thing. Staring at the empty seat, lips barely moving, hands fidgeting like she was nervous for someone else's sake. 10 minutes in, I finally said something, just trying to break the silence. She didn't even blink. She just paused her whispering for a split second, then carried on as if I wasn't even there. Like I wasn't the one driving. Like I wasn't the one she matched with. Like the real person she came with wasn't me. At the next light, I twisted slightly in my seat, just to make eye contact and show I was talking to her. She snapped her gaze up at me so fast, it made me flinch. Then she looked back at the seat beside her, and she started whispering again. Faster this time, like she was telling someone to calm down, or warning them. It wasn't playful or quirky or whatever. It was straight up uncomfortable. The atmosphere in the car changed completely. It felt cold, but not the weather kind of cold. Just that bad vibe cold when you know you've made a mistake, but you can't undo it. I kept telling myself she must have anxiety or something, and maybe sitting behind me made her feel safer. But the whispering didn't match that. The way she stared at the empty seat didn't match that. We were almost at the restaurant when things got worse. I stopped at a zebra crossing to let a couple cross. While I waited, I checked the mirror again. She wasn't whispering anymore. She was staring directly at my reflection, and she looked angry. Not shouting angry, but that deep, tight anger like I'd interrupted something. Then she did the creepiest thing. She leaned slightly toward the empty seat, nodded, and whispered again. But this time I could hear one word. Just one. She said stop. Not to me. Not in a warning tone. She said it like someone beside her needed to hear it. I swear my hands felt weird on the steering wheel at that point. Not sweating, not shaking, just tense. I didn't know if I should pretend I didn't notice or if I should just drop her off and go. I told myself, okay, just make it to the parking lot. Drop her, dip. Easy. But when we pulled in and stopped, she didn't move. She stayed completely still in the back seat. Her eyes were on the seat next to her again. She looked like she was waiting for someone else to get out first. Someone who wasn't real. Someone she had treated as real the entire drive. I didn't want to sit there any longer. I cleared my throat and just said we were here. Nothing rude, just normal. She finally lifted her head slowly like she'd read my message late. Then she smiled. But it wasn't a normal smile. It was the small, tired smile people have when they're trying to hold in tears or trying to hide something. She opened the door, stepped out, and before I could say anything else, she leaned back in and stared directly at the passenger seat. Not at me. At the seat. Then she whispered something again, so soft I couldn't catch it, and closed the door. She didn't walk toward the restaurant. She walked behind my car, crossed the car park, and just kept going. Like she was walking someone home. Like she wasn't alone at all. I sat there for a good minute with the engine running. I had no idea what just happened. I didn't know if she needed help, if she was messing with me, or if something else was going on and I shouldn't even try to understand. I never saw her again on the app. She unmatched me instantly. But sometimes when I'm driving alone at night, I check the rear view without thinking. And for a split second, my brain expects to see someone staring at the empty seat behind me, whispering to someone else I can't see. I'm just going to start this straight because even now it feels weird that I'm even telling this. I'm not trying to make it sound dramatic or anything. It's just what happened. And honestly, the only reason I matched this guy in the first place was because I was bored out of my mind that night. It was raining, my friends were all out doing their own thing, and I was stuck at home scrolling through random profiles. His name was Lewis. Pretty normal at first. Kinda tall, messy hair, that typical, I don't care but I still care look. His bio was the part that stood out because he had this weird line about how nobody leaves his house once they enter. I thought he was trying to be dark humor, edgy, or whatever. People write weird stuff on their profiles all the time. I didn't think much about it. We matched instantly. He messaged me before I even locked my phone. The way he typed was kinda cocky, but not in a confident way. More like he was trying to impress himself. He kept going on about how he's different, how people who meet him never forget him, how nobody ever leaves his place because they don't want to. I laughed it off, thinking he was just weirdly into hyping himself up. I wasn't interested in him like that, but I didn't want to be rude, so I just went along with the combo. The whole time, he kept steering everything back to his house. Not like come over, but more like little hints about it, explaining how people love being there, how it changes the vibe of whoever visits. He said something about how he collects moments, which sounded cringe, like those quotes people stick on Instagram posts. But again, I ignored it. You don't expect someone to literally mean it. We agreed to meet after a couple days of messaging. I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I just thought we'd grab something small and dip. But he didn't want to meet outside. He kept saying his place was more personal. Normally, I don't go to a guy's place first time. I'm not dumb. But he lived like 10 minutes away from my area, a street I knew well, and I figured I'd just stay near the entrance, say hi, and go if he gave weird vibes. My friend even said she'd track my location, so I thought it was calm. His building was this old converted house, the type with a weird mix of modern and old features. On the outside, it looked normal. Inside, though, it felt off. Not creepy at first, just too quiet. You know when a place feels like nobody's lived there in a while, but everything is clean and arranged too neatly. That sort of thing. Lewis opened the door like he'd been standing behind it the whole time. He barely even greeted me, just stepped back and waved me in like I already knew the layout. The hallway light was dim, like he chose the lowest brightness on purpose. The air inside felt heavy, almost warm, like no windows had been opened that day. He pointed at a small seat in the hallway, one of those wooden ones people use for taking shoes off. He told me to sit and wait a second because he wanted to grab something from his room. Again, he said it like he already knew I'd do it. I sat down because I didn't want to make things awkward, and it was only supposed to be a quick visit anyway. The hallway was long, longer than it looked outside. I remember thinking that. The walls were painted a pale color that made everything feel tighter than it was. I didn't notice the photos at first. They blended in because the hallway was so narrow and my eyes were adjusting. Then he disappeared into one of the rooms, and the silence hit again. That's when I actually looked around. The wall opposite me was covered in Polaroids. Not framed, not arranged in any cute way. Just taped. Hundreds of them. Every single one showed a girl sitting in the exact spot I was sitting in. Same wooden seat, same angle, same hallway. Same weird dim light. Different girls. Some smiling awkwardly, some looking uncomfortable. Some staring straight at the camera like someone told them not to move. My chest felt tight instantly. It wasn't even like jump scare panic. It was this slow, heavy realization that clicked all the weird comments he made. The whole bragging about nobody leaving. The way he kept bringing everything back to the house. His obsession with collecting moments. He meant literally collecting them. Girls. Their photos. Their faces in this exact hallway. I stood up immediately. I didn't even think. My brain was just screaming, "Get out." I took one step toward the door before I heard him behind me. I didn't turn. I just froze because his footsteps were too close already. He'd moved silently, like he knew the floor well enough to avoid making noise. He asked if I was trying to leave already, but in this disappointed tone, like I had broken some rule he expected me to follow. I didn't answer. I didn't want to look at him. I could feel him staring at the back of my head like I was another picture waiting to happen. I said something about needing fresh air, making it sound as normal as possible. In my head, I was begging myself not to shake or stumble. I knew if I made it to the door calmly, I'd be fine. I reached for my bag slowly so he wouldn't think I was about to sprint. The moment my fingers touched the handle of the front door, I swear I felt him move closer. Not grabbing me, not saying anything, just shifting forward like he was waiting for me to turn around and sit back down, like he thought this was part of his routine. The door wasn't locked. That's the only reason I'm even telling this. It should have been locked. Every other story I've heard, the door is always locked. But it turned so easily under my hand that I nearly stumbled out from how fast it opened. I stepped outside, pretending it was normal, pretending I wasn't seconds away from bolting. Once I was past the threshold, I walked fast down the path like I wasn't running for my life. As soon as I hit the pavement, I turned the corner and sprinted. I didn't care how it looked. I didn't stop until I reached the main road. I messaged my friend instantly. I kept checking behind me even though nobody was there. The whole walk home, my heart felt like it was punching my ribs. I blocked him on everything. Deleted the app for a bit. Didn't tell anyone except my friend because I knew everyone would tell me I should have known better. And yeah, maybe I should have. But the thing that keeps messing with me is how normal it all seemed until it didn't. A week later, I went past the street again because I had to. His windows were all shut. Curtains pulled tight. No sign of anyone. The part I can't forget. The girls in those pictures. There were so many. Different clothes, different hairstyles, different ages. All sitting exactly where I had sat. All looking like they didn't realize what was happening until it was too late. I keep wondering how many of them walked out like I did, and how many didn't. This was the first time I genuinely felt like the person sitting across from me was not pretending to be unhinged. He actually was. Not loud crazy. Not obvious crazy. The kind that sits quietly, smiles at the wrong moments, and says things so calmly that you don't realize how messed up they are until hours later. His name was Oren. Even his name felt off. His profile wasn't cute weird or quirky weird, just blank weird. 3 photos. All taken in bad lighting. All of him staring too directly at the camera. His bio said nothing except, "Ask me anything." I should have unmatched right there. But I didn't. Because he messaged me something normal, something harmless, and for once it didn't start with a beautiful or what are you doing. He asked what my favorite crisps were. It threw me off in a funny way, so I replied. We ended up talking about snacks for like 20 minutes, then movies, then music, and none of it was weird enough to send me running. He asked to meet that same evening. Normally I'd say no, but I had nothing to do and I didn't feel unsafe. Stupid, I know. We picked a small coffee shop that stayed open late. When I walked in, he was already sitting at a table. He stood up when he saw me and smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. It looked like something he practiced in the mirror. Too wide, too slow, like he was thinking about each movement. I sat down. He didn't say hello. He just stared at me like he was trying to memorize every detail of my face. I tried starting the convo light. He gave short, delayed answers like his brain was buffering. Then he'd suddenly switch and say something overly specific. Like I told him I studied English, and he replied by telling me the exact number of students in the last graduating class at a uni I didn't even attend. It threw me slightly, but I shrugged it off. Until he leaned forward and said it. Not joking, not laughing, not dramatic. You're exactly as I pictured. I brushed it off as awkward flirting, even though nothing about his tone matched flirting. He pulled out his phone and held it with both hands, but he didn't unlock it. He just kept the screen facing downward like he didn't want me to see something. I tried asking about his family. He said he didn't have one. Not in the sad orphan way. In the I cut them off way. Completely flat, no explanation. When I asked why, he said people only survive if they know how to let things go. Even people. The air got heavy. I laughed awkwardly, and he watched my laugh like he was studying the mechanics of it, not actually enjoying it. Then he said something that made my skin crawl start to finish. I wasn't actually expecting you. I thought someone else would show. That one sentence made every muscle in my body tighten. I asked if he mixed me up with another match. He said no. Then he said something even worse. But this works too. The way he said works, like he had planned something and I just accidentally fit whatever he needed. I told him I needed the bathroom just to get a second to breathe and think. He nodded slowly, then said, "Don't take too long. I don't like waiting." I went to the bathroom and locked the door. My hands were shaking. I couldn't explain it. Nothing insane had happened yet. Nothing physical, nothing threatening. But every instinct in me screamed something is not right. I stayed in there for a couple minutes, thinking of excuses to leave. When I came back out, he was standing. Not sitting. Standing behind my chair. Staring at the bathroom hallway like he expected something to come out behind me. When he noticed me, he smiled again, that too slow smile, and said, "Thought you weren't coming back." His voice was softer now, too soft, like we were sharing some secret only he understood. I told him I actually needed to head home early. He didn't argue. That scared me even more, because people like him don't just let things drop. He followed me out of the cafe, not beside me, not behind me, slightly diagonally, close enough to hear every step I took. Every few seconds he'd clear his throat like he was about to say something, then stop himself. When we got to the road where we had to split directions, he finally spoke. He said, "I had a different plan tonight." I froze. I didn't want to ask, but my voice came out shaky and I did anyway. He shrugged. "She never showed." My stomach flipped. I asked who she was. He smiled again. "You don't need to worry. Things change. You'll do." My entire body went cold. He said it like he was talking about picking the last item on a shelf because the one he wanted was sold out. Like it didn't matter who the person was. Just that someone filled the spot. I walked away fast. He didn't follow. But I didn't feel safe even when I got home. I locked the door twice. Triple-checked the windows. Sat on the sofa hugging my knees while my phone buzzed. One new message from Tinder. From him. It was a single sentence. "Next time, I won't settle." I blocked him immediately. But before the block went through, his profile picture updated. Not to a selfie. Not to a meme. But to a photo of the cafe bathroom hallway. Taken from behind me. Taken while I was in there. Taken before I came out. Meaning he wasn't just watching the hallway. He was waiting for something else to walk out. And I still don't know what, or who, he originally planned for.